Seeing you coming in. Right. Yeah, welcome, Simon, Duncan. Right, the rest of you are gradually appearing. Yeah, Shriyanamala, welcome.
Sir, I am not well today. I'm
You are
having
not.
flu. I'm
You've
having
got
flu.
flu. Ah.
Flu, coughing and others.
Oh.
I'm not well. Yeah, I
Oh
just listening
well.
and waiting without society.
Well, it is brave of you to join as Sutti Hotu. May well-being be to you.
Yeah, that's that. I went to some and came. Yeah.
Welcome, Christian. Right. I think we can start now. Hopefully, I've got in front of me this time round what we're meant to be doing. So we were recapping the Karaniya Metta Sutta, and then going on to the Dhammapada. You'll see I've lumped together for the Dhammapada. I've lumped together verses 11 to 16 because they're largely repeats one to the other, just a change of a few words each time. So I will share screen, then call up the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Share screen, Podunk, share. PTT. Sorry, nearly there. Metta Sutta. Here we are. Right, so last time we were looking at this verse 5, Diptava yeva ditta ye chadure vasanti avidure bhutava sambhavesiva sabbasatta bhavantu sukhitatta. So before we move on then to the Dhammapada, any comments or queries on this one? Sukhitatta, I think you got the Sukhitatta. It could be, you could have Sukha, Sukhino, Sukhita, or Sukhitata, all of mean roughly the same thing. Sukhita means, Sukha means happiness or happy, broadly speaking. Sukhita as a past participle of a causative verb means made happy, caused to be happy. If you're Sukhitatta, the atta is the same atta as in anatta in the Sanskrit atman. So with made happy selved, caused to have an atta or an atman that is happy. So before we move on, was there anyone who didn't get a chance to recite it last time round, but would welcome the opportunity now? Christine, please come in.
Okay.
Let me just enlarge it on my screen a bit. There we are.
Ita va yevadita. Ya ye chadure vasanti avidure. Uta asambhavesiva. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata.
Very
And
well.
I appreciate that the Sabah and Sabe equal. You said last time, I think.
That's right, yeah. Either would be equally, could make a compound of it, sabbasata, or split the words and therefore fully decline sabbe satsata. There's no real difference in meaning. As we've discussed, there could be a nuance of difference. If you make a compound of it, you're treating the beings as a collective, as it were, a collective entity, sabbasata. If you separate them, sabbesata, there's more of an idea of looking at them, a group one by one by one. But it's just a nuance of meaning. In a context like this, I would say there's no real difference.
It's a very happy little phrase to pop in a couple of times.
Sabbasata bhavantu sukhitata. Yeah, it is a happy little phrase to pop in. I usually sign myself off with something broadly similar. I noticed that you see where I've highlighted the va. You pronounce as a short va. There is an important difference because the long va, it means or. Bhutava sambhavesi va means one or the other, whether one or the other. With the short va, it's actually the shortened form of iva, meaning like or similar to. So the words do actually have a different meaning. So if you can just say that pada again, bhutava sambhavesi va.
Bhutava sambhavesi va.
Yes, okay, right. Yeah, carry on, Christine.
Sabasata bhavantu sukhitata.
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 Very good. Yes, excellent. Right. Any more before we move on to the Dhammapada?
All right, I can do it.
Okay, so we've got Keith and Mariano to do it. So Mariano, give us a go, and then Keith can come in. Thank you for volunteering, Keith.
Dikta vayeva adikta yecha dure fasanti avidure bhutava sambhavesi va sabbasata bhavantu sukhitata.
Do you know, that's a lovely tune that you had there.
This is what I chant in hospitals, you see.
Is that right? I'm just wondering whether it's a combination of the lovely tunefulness that we have from Sri Lanka, for example, because the Sri Lankans are beautifully tuneful in the way they chant it. It was a combination of that and Joe Green.
Yeah,
Joe Green.
They learn it as little children, by heart. This one and the Mangala Sutta, the Ratana Sutta.
But your tune, as I said, it had a bit of Joe Green there. Joe Green, by the way, is the English translation of Giuseppe Verdi. Joe Green. The combination of Sri Lanka and Giuseppe Verdi. Okay, thank you, Mariano. Keith, please come in.
Yes, well, excuse me, I shan't chant after that splendid performance.
That's right, recitation is fine.
No, I just wanted to make a comment, actually.
Please.
On this Suki Tatar. I thought about this for a long time, and I think perhaps it's making a distinction of being happy in themselves, which is rather different from enjoying happy circumstances as life goes along. How does that strike you?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Can we then see the nuance of difference between just sukhita and sukhitata? Happy in themselves, sukhitata with attas. Those whose attas whose selves are happy, have been made happy, would be the strict construction, because this is a bahuvrihi, a possessive construction. So sukitata in the singular would be sukitato, would mean somebody whose atta, whose atman, so to speak, has been made sukha. So it's a possessive. Therefore, I think there's a lot of merit in what you've said there, Keith. I think if there's a nuance of difference between sukhita and sukhitata, I think that you have hit upon that nuance. Happy selved, whose self have been made happy, happy in themselves. Sukhitata. Yeah, I think that's a nice point, Keith. Thanks for that.
Well, I've thought about this for a long while. I wondered why it was tacked together there. I thought, yes, there is a distinction between being happy in ourselves and being happy just because something nice happens around us.
Yeah, I think that's a nice point there. I agree with you.
Oh, great, thank you.
So save that. We've always got to be slightly cautious, because in contemporary English, happy in oneself might have certain nuances of meaning. But essentially, I think you're onto a good point there. I mean, it's linguistically correct. Hang on, just somebody. Yeah, it's linguistically supported by the form of the language.
Good.
Good. Okay, nice one, Keith.
Right, thank you.
Right, any more on that before we move on to the Dhammapada?
James, has the class been running? I've only just managed to get in.
Sorry, I didn't catch the. Oh, have you gone again? Oh, you are there. Sorry, what was the first half of what you said?
Has the class been running? Because I've been trying to get in since 1:45. I've only just got in.
How strange, because no, we started on time or a few seconds late, and everyone else came in on cue. So yeah, somebody else just trying to get in. There's Orca. I
just sort of sat there saying the host is in the room, but it didn't let me in for 15 minutes. Very odd.
I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering whether this is a wonderful example of that Spanish proverb, obra común, obra de ningún, which was broadly translated as everybody's work, nobody's work. Obra común, common work, obra de ningún, the work of nobody. So I think what happens is, if somebody is waiting to get in, so if you've joined a few moments after we press admit all, it comes up on a separate screen, a separate little item, tag, saying so waiting to get in. And if I spot it on my right-hand screen, I immediately press it, of course. But it may be that are you there, Wangdu? Neither of us was attending to those who were waiting to get in after we let everyone in. This is a systems error which I shall endeavour to correct. Sorry, Paladin, and Orca, if you're in the same boat, sorry to you. Right. So any more on this? Otherwise, we can move on. One thing, I think I may have mentioned it before, this word I've highlighted, vasanti, from the root vas, meaning to dwell or to live. Previous lives, for example, when the Buddha is talking about his previous lives, Pubbe Nivasa, the Pubbe previously, Nivasa, an indwelling, we've come in to live on this earth. This vas, meaning to live or dwell, it Survive, our English word from the irregular, highly irregular verb to be, the past tense was, is exactly this was. It is the etymological survival. And it's to be distinguished from an identical homonymous root, thus meaning to shine or to be bright. Oops, lost me. So the root to shine or to be bright sorry, I'm writing. I'll share screen of. Now, Usha we saw a moment ago. Usha's name actually is from that same root. I don't know if you can hear me, Usha, but in fact, from the root vas.
Yes, I can hear you.
Were you aware, Usha, that your name actually comes from that root vas?
I'm not sure, no.
Okay, so we've got the root vas, meaning to shine.
Mhm.
Some of us here will know our dear elderly friend Vasanta. So there's a noun suffix quite rare. Anta on its own means an end, but there are a few words where the suffix anta is just a noun. So Vasanta, the shining, and so it means the spring, as in springtime, where everything gets bright and shining. You can also just make a noun out of it by adding the a. Now, under the rules of Vedic, where you get an unstressed va, it becomes an u.
Are you writing?
Sorry? Sorry, can you all see my iPad?
No,
Okay.
you're right. Yes.
So the usha is actually the phonetic variant by the grammatical rules of Vedic. The vasa becomes usha. So usha means therefore the dawn, because that, when the night becomes bright, is the brightening. So it's from that root vas. So you and Vasanta, Usha, share the same root for your name.
Interesting. Thank you for explaining
Right.
things.
Am I telling you this for the first time, Usha?
You said something, but not like that. You said it means shiny, and I think we were doing another word. So I said,
right.
I thought it meant dawn, and today you said it meant dawn. So you said something.
That is correct, because it's from that same root vas, to shine. As I said,
Right.
entirely separate root vas, to dwell. And from that you get the vasanta, meaning shining, but used to mean the spring. And also from vas with usha, the shining in the sense of the bright after the dark, therefore the dawn. Just as in English, some people call it. Sorry, Mariano.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, just a very long shot. I was wondering whether basis, base, base actually comes from the same root. Because the V and B often change into each other. And it is the ground of anything, ground of being, or
That's something I'm going to check. I somehow think it's a bit of a long shot.
yeah, very long.
But I will. I'm just making a note to check.
I checked on etymology, but it went as far back as Greek and not beyond. I wonder whether.
Well, for that you need to have the work of Robert Beeks, the Greek etymological dictionary, which takes you from Greek then way beyond to the other Indo-European languages, and very usefully it gives the Vedic equivalents, or the Vedic etymons, and equally Proto-Indo-European ones. So I don't know. Hang on. Oops. I don't know if any of you have this. This is only volume 1 of 2. It's quite a fat, very scholarly work. But just look up the Greek, the basis, you see. So I can. I think. Oh, why haven't they got it? Maybe Vasis is from a different route. Okay, I'll have to check it. I don't find it immediately. That's because I haven't looked it up under the correct route in the Greek. I just looked up Vasis as is. Anyway, I've made a note to check it for you. But sometimes you find with things that seem long shots, you say, no, that was a long shot, it's not that. But by searching, you can often find something equally interesting. So it's always worth trying. It's worth trying the long shots. You might take a pot shot at one bird and hit another, you see.
James, can I ask, if how do you differentiate between the vas that you've just explained for shine and the vas for living? Because you said it could be.
Okay, right.
How do you find?
Okay, so for example, looking at my screen here, if you just look at, if somebody said to me, okay, what is that root? What does it mean? Just looking at that alone, the root vas on its own, there is no means of distinguishing.
Yeah.
What you mean? It would be entirely. If you just looked at the root alone, that single word in isolation, you say, well, it could be one, it could be the other, but the context will tell you, because
Okay.
so it would only be by context.
So Vasa, like the rainy season, is not connected to all this. Or is
I'm
it?
sorry.
Now is the Vasa. Is that connected to this route? The rainy season.
The Vasa meaning dwelling.
The rains retreat.
Okay. No, the Varsha in Sanskrit, Varsha, and that's the one that's a double S, Vasa.
Oh,
so that is again an entirely separate route.
It doesn't have the same root, just sounds similar. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was from Vrish Vasati. It rains.
Thank you.
But these ambiguities, I mean, we get them a lot. One is in Pali. If you look at assa, so if you just show me the word assa, and then, well, what is that? Well, depending, it could be assa from Sanskrit ashva, Latin equus, meaning a horse. It could be assa, equivalent to the Sanskrit asya, meaning of that or his, or it could be equivalent to the Sanskrit syat, meaning maybe, Latin sit, Italian sia. So if you just look at the word in isolation and say, well, it could be any of these things, but in reality, when you see it in context, it's always entirely plain what it means. There are just a very few occasions where the context will not resolve the ambiguity. And when that happens, well, no big deal. We just have to live with an inherent ambiguity of language. It doesn't happen that much. I should say it happens a lot more in Pali than in Sanskrit.
Well, to be honest, it reflects our life because it's ambiguous anyway.
I'm sorry, say again,
It
Usha?
reflects how life is. It's not certain.
Actually, that's a very nice point.
So why should we make it certain?
Our demand, our desire. Well, what does that mean? What's the translation? No, that's absolutely, it does reflect life itself, Usha. I like that one. Yes, Mariano, please.
Yeah, just it is a matter of how it is rendered in Latin. I just bought, someone recommended to me ashwagandha. It is smell of horse. It is an Indian root.
Ashwagandha. They use it in Ayurvedic medicine, don't they?
Yeah,
the horse fragrance.
Yeah, yeah. The V is rendered as a W, and I wonder whether there is a difference. The W invites a schwa rather than a sva, maybe, or in your experience, is it the case or not at all? Or...
Okay.
It would be Hindi, I suppose, nowadays. The name ashwagandha.
It would be, yeah. In fact, it's purely a matter of how different people pronounce it, and there's a slight variation. This V sound in Devanagari, this is the V. Now, it's one of these slightly fluid sounds, a bit like the Spanish V, which is sometimes comes out as a B and sometimes comes out as a, when in English we pronounce a V, and I think it's the same in, it's the lower lip against the upper teeth. Vero, davvero. Say davvero.
Davvero.
See, your lower lip was against your upper teeth there. Davvero.
Yeah, davvero.
So the Italian V is very much like the English, and most of the European languages have a distinct V. Spanish is the odd man out. Even the word like to invite in Spanish is written as like the English invite, but with an AR. So, but it's written as if it's invitar, but it's pronounced invitar. Now, there's a similar kind of fluidity with the V sound in the languages in Indian pronunciation. When I say Indian, I'm talking about India as a whole. Down in Tamil Nadu, for example, they pronounce it quite a distinct V, pretty much like the English one. Go up to the north of India, and it's like it's a bilabial. So the lips, it's not as if the lower lip is against the upper teeth, like the English V. It's more like just a V. Nivas. And some of them, with some speakers, it will come almost to a W, Nivas. It's the same sound. It can vary from speaker to speaker. Now, here's the trick. When the V sound directly follows a S or a Sh or a stop consonant, it's pronounced virtually identical to the English W. For example, Gurdwara. And in fact, the modern Hindi for door, it would be written in the Devanagari with this V here, but because it follows a D, it would be pronounced exactly like a W, so it pronounces Dwara. And again, following a Sh, it would be pronounced Ashwa. They wouldn't say Ashva, Ashwa. But it's the same sound, with the slight variations in how it comes out depending on its position in the word, and in particular whether it follows another consonant. So Ashwa. But if a Tamil speaker, for example, were reading it, he'd probably say Ashva. Not that I speak Tamil, I'm sorry, it's a bit longer, but it would be much more of a V sound. So it's variations in position of the word, variations in the speech.
So it is a help for phonetics, really, the fact that they got a W there. It is an invitation to say Ashwa.
It is an invitation to say Ashwa. Writing it in scholarly transcription, where you want to have everything very exactly representing the original script, you'd write as a V, but you pronounce it as a W. And also, as you probably know, in Latin, the letter that we currently have as a V was probably pronounced as a W in Latin. I remember being taught classics at school. This is veni vidi vici, not veni vidi vici. So this w has become a v in Italian. So it's a bit of a tricky consonant, but provided you remember these differences, v and w, are just, they're unimportant grammatically. It's just a matter of phonetics, how it comes out.
Thank you.
Rosemary.
James, I wanted to ask you, when I learnt classical Greek about 100 years ago, I remember learning about semi-vowels, and you see that in the Minoan word, Mycenaean word, wanax, which became anax or anakteras in ancient Greek, and that w sound was dropped, but I think it was preserved in the breathing. Is that just a feature of ancient Greek, very ancient Greek, or is that related to what you've just been saying?
Because the ancient Greeks, they didn't have a w sound as such.
No, they didn't. But they wrote the breathings, the rough and the smooth breathings, which were remember a kind of relic of that.
I'm just wondering
the H sound was pronounced with the rough breathing.
So it was a wanax in Minoan, was it?
Well, it was in Linear B. You find wanax.
Yeah.
But not that I know very much about Linear B, but that was one of the clues that it was in fact Greek that was written in Linear B.
Ah, it's interesting. I'm afraid the relation between classical Greek and Linear B and Minoan is slightly above my pay grade here. But it's so I'm not really able to give a helpful answer on that. But on semi-vowels, generally, for example, if you have astu, let it be, asti, it is, astu, like imperative, therefore, like an operative, let it be, astu. May ananda be, astu ananda. Now, as we know, this u here, followed by an a, becomes by sandhi, we say it becomes a v sound. Now, it's highly probable that it was pronounced, back in Sanskrit days and Pali as a pure w, astwananda, astu ananda, astwananda. But it would be written with a v, there's this same v, and it would be written in this way. So I'll write astu, and then ananda. So astu ananda, separating the words. And then now look what I've written here. That is s plus t plus v. That's the s to v. You can see here I've written them. They've all by the ligatures. The s to v are joined. So here we've got this letter v, which represents the final full vocalic u becoming a v by sandhi. And it doesn't make a fresh syllable. It's not astua, it's astwa, astwa. Two syllables there. But that was, I'd be we'll never really know, of course, but I would be extremely surprised to learn that it was pronounced as anything other than a w, astwananda. So you can see that this same letter, I mean, written letter V, did service both for the full consonantal V and for the U becoming a W sound by Santi, Astwananda. So I don't think we'll ever, I don't think scholarship will ever get us right to the bottom of it. But happily, it doesn't really matter, because you'll have people in different parts of India, and also even more so in different parts of the Buddhist world, pronouncing that same consonant in different ways. For example, in Thai, they don't have a V sound, and they don't quite have the modern Northern Indian V sound. They pronounce it as a pure W. So Veramani Sikhapadam Samadhiyami. So just as a pure W, exactly like the English W. Whereas if the Hindi speaker heard that, no, means the Veramani. So the answer is, it varies from place to place. And it doesn't terribly matter, provided you know that in theory it's all the same sound, whose pronunciation shifts from circumstance to circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Any bidders to move on to the Dhammapada, or do we have any more on this?
I was wondering,
Go on, Mariano.
I was wondering, in Paleo-Indo-European, where you got an initial W, like war, and in Italian you got guerra, or
yes,
and guardia, or guardia. I was wondering whether there was an aspirated in Indo-European in front, which was kind of lost in one, became a hard G another.
Yeah, this is something I'm currently engaging my brain in to study a bit more of it. It's the lost laryngeals. There were probably actually 3 different varieties of the h, and h, which influenced the neighboring vowel but got lost. And it's that has been advanced as a theory. And I think the theory has become widely accepted. That gives you that accounts for words like, there's probably something like guer, meaning to fight or war, and that becomes war in modern English, guerra, of course, in Italian, from the same root as quarrel. So guerra, in fact, is from it came via a Germanic route into Italian, because you don't have that word in Latin, bellum in Latin. So the answer is there were H's there that have disappeared later, but have left their influence, like hidden genetic influences in words that we now use.
Thank you.
Okay, is it time for the Dhammapada now? Okay. Oops, where are we? Right. Before we do anything else, Usha, you were mentioning Vasa and Vassa. Here we are, Usha, this very word, this Vassa with a double S. So
Yes.
Vassa Satam, we translate as
You've gone quiet.
Frozen, yeah.
rainy season a year. of 15 summers means he was a 15-year-old boy. So it's the same word. You calculate years by, the number of rainy seasons. So a rain 100 means 100 rains, therefore 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read it out for you. Yo chavassa satanjive dussilo asamahito ekahanji vitang seyo silavantassa jhayino. So yo, as the relative pronoun, who therefore means whoever, yocha and whoever, yocha and whoever. Vassa satan jive. Jive, the optative form here, the ordinary indicative would be jivati. Jive in the optative, because we're talking about not a particular person who's limited, whoever might live for 100 years. You just use the optative in that sense. So yochavassa satam jive, whoever might live, or if somebody, even if somebody might live for 100 years. Dussilo asamahito, of bad conduct and unconcentrated. Now, this word sila in Sanskrit, shila, we know that word as often translated as virtue and good conduct. We've got the pancha silani, the 5 virtues and that kind of thing. The original meaning of that, which also means virtue in Sanskrit, but the original meaning, going back to Vedic, of shila, just means one's habitual conduct generally, even if it was very bad conduct. So if you look at dussilo, duh meaning bad, of bad sila, it's not an oxymoron, it's not a contradiction in terms, it just means of bad conduct. One point to note is when sila is used as the final member of a compound here, it normally has the meaning of conduct rather than virtue. Used on its own, it normally means, in Buddhist context, it normally means right conduct, virtue. As the second member of a compound, or final member of a compound, it just means conduct generally. I mean, there's what could look like an outright oxymoron. Oops, where's my iPad gone? Oh, I've lost connection. Sorry. Let's try and re-find it. I'm just getting my connection, iPad connection back. Here we are. So sila, is it back with you, my iPad? Thank you. Sila, oops, come on. Your YouTube is, why does it do this? No reminder. Here we are. Sila, Sanskrit, Shila. Now, take a word like papa. Often translated as sin, but it's any kind of moral evil. It's both an adjective and a noun. It's a neuter noun, papam. It's also an adjective, meaning an evil or sinful person. You can make it into a compound, which works in Sanskrit and Pali. So it's a papa sila or papa shila in Sanskrit, both work. That's not a contradiction in terms, evil and virtue. It just means of habitually evil conduct. So if a person is papa silo, that means he's an evil-natured person who's generally evil in his conduct. So that is why I say that there is no contradiction in terms to talk about dussilo. That means sort of, routinely, habitually, bad conduct. Asamahito. This word hitta, please all tell me you all know exactly what it means and where it comes from. Ah, you aren't all telling me at once. Is there anyone who knows what this word hitta means? Simon.
I think it now means something like beneficial or useful, as in hitaya sukhaya in the chanting. It comes from originally this bit samahita, meaning kind of to set up, to put in place.
The first bit you got absolutely right. So Lucas, sukhaya, hitaya for the happiness. So actually it's the past participle of the root dha. Now, Yuniso manasi karota, mark ye well. Let's get up. Learn this well. I don't shove much grammar down your throats, but this bit, I do pretty much insist on shoving down your throats. For your own hitta. I'm doing this for your own good. Okay, so the root dha means, the basic meaning of the root dha is to put. In Greek, it becomes te. That's why, and soon, that's why we have synthesis. Sanskrit sandhi and Greek synthesis are etymologically the same word. Synthesis, putting together. Sandhi, putting together. You're putting together two words running into each other. Now, dha is a bit of an irregular verb, because the past participle is hitta. You would have expected to see dhata, but it's not. It's an irregular past participle, so it's hitta. When this root dha appears as the final member of a compound, therefore a noun or an adjective, it turns into di. It just does. It behaves a little bit irregularly. So to put together as a verb would be sandha. Make a noun out of it, and it becomes a sandhi. Take the verb with two prefixes, sam, adha, some together in are towards you in place, make a noun out of it, and you get samadhi. That is samadhi. Now, samadhi is the noun, and the adjective, a person who has samadhi, is samahita. So samadha verb, samadhi noun, samahita adjective. So the dha, the hita, is just because it's a bit of an irregular root, or of the root that behaves irregularly. And I labor this a bit because you very, very, very often see it. So it means, so hitta on its own would mean placed, but then by extension of meaning, it's something well placed, well done, and therefore beneficial. And it's an adjective and a noun. So we have the work of Sanskrit literature, a secular work, is the hita upadesha, the beneficial, the wise, or the good advice. And the hita upadesha by Sanskrit becomes hitopadesha. It's like the Sanskrit equivalent of it's folk tales, moral tales, a bit of Aesop's fables mixed. In fact, quite a few of Aesop's fables come from India. So there we are. So when you see hita, dha, and the d at the end, it's all from that same root. It means the basic meaning in Sanskrit and Pali means to put, but there's often a blurring of meaning between doing and putting in the Indo-European languages. So in Greek, we find that it means both. So synthesis means putting together. And so it has the meaning of putting. But when in Greek, we put the atron ending, theatron, it means the place of action. Theatre in English. So our word, which we have in il teatro, in modern English, theatre, it's the place where things are done, the place of action. And that meaning survives. Of course, in English, we have an operating theatre. Doesn't mean it's the big play acting, it's where the operations are done, the operating theatre. We talk about the theatre of war, the places where the actual action of war is carried out. So remember, there's...
So atron would be the equivalent of atrium, I suppose, in Latin, would it?
Again, I think I'll check that out. I have a feeling I don't see why the T would have been lost. I think if it had come from Greek into Latin, I very much doubt whether it would have been lost. I mean, it's I think the Romans would have taken the word directly over from the Greeks, and indeed in modern Italian, il teatro. Is that right? Is that, you know? But let me check this. I'm making a note that next time I'll come back to you on it. So if somebody is susamahita, it means he is in good samadhi, well concentrated. Simon, please.
Is the does that also apply to the verb dahati? Because you get sanghita connected, joined with, which is from sandahati. So is that the same da in there, to put with something?
Yes, it is. It is. It's one of those, you know, this verb, you know, doesn't conjugate quite as neatly as we want. Let me just call it up here. So there's the verb dha. It's a class 3 verb, so it's not that it's a reduplicator. So dadhati. And it's the dadhati that slightly then irregularly, so there's so many irregularities in this verb. The dadhati in Sanskrit is the one that becomes dahati in Pali. So if you look at the Pali verb dahati, think, ooh, that comes from a root dah. Well, no, it doesn't. It actually comes from the root da. And we see here in Moni Williams just how many lines are devoted to the various forms of that verb. Fortunately, you don't have to learn them all. But that you're right, Simon. So when you see sandahati, that does mean puts together. So sandahati is the Pali verb form of the Sanskrit sandadhati, of which the noun is sandhi, and of which the adjective, the past participial adjective, is sanghita. So sandhi noun, sanghita adjective, sandadhati, or in Pali sandahati is the verb. So, and here we see it, asamahito, not in samadhi. So here, just the hita is exactly that. Okay, it's an irregular past participle, but whenever it's used as a past participle, it always has that form. So once you've learnt it, there it is in your mind for the various guises under which it appears. Ekahang jivitam sayo silavantassa jhayino. So aham, in fact, in Sanskrit is aham. It's again an irregular noun. It just appears as aham in Pali. A homonym with aham meaning I, me, but it's in reality it's never confused. So ekahang just means one day. So ekahang jivitang sayo. I construe this as an adjective, meaning a jivitam, a life, an ekaham, a one-day life, a life consisting of one day. So I construe ekaham as a compound adjective there. So a life of one day, a one day. We could translate it literally into English. A one-day life. It has good meaning. A life lasting one day. A one-day life. Seyo is better. I think I've explained this in detail at some stage. It just means it is better. Silavantassa jayino, for one. So this is the genitive here. So the one-day life is better for the person who, silavantassa, the person who behaves himself, who is silava, behaves in a moral way, jayino, meditates.
Why the genitive, James?
Ah. You tell me, Paladin. So I put you on the spot there, didn't
Well,
I?
if I knew the answer, I wouldn't be asking you the question, would I?
You might have been testing me to see if I got it right.
Afraid not. I
Or you
wish
might
I
have been.
Is it one of those
your own
that
knowledge.
is that one of those that's just how it works in Pali kind of answers?
No, I'm not going to cop out like that. I'm going to meet your question head on, Paladin, and deal with it. Why is this in the genitive? Okay. In fact, there are two possible reasons that it could be in this form, because remember, the genitive and the dative have effectively merged in Pali. Incidentally, the genitive and the dative are always different in form in Sanskrit, without any exception throughout the language. They're always different. So in Sanskrit, if you see something in the genitive, you know it's genitive. If you see it in the dative, you know it's dative. But in Pali, they've merged. So if you see something that's genitive in form, it could also include the dative, which is a bit of a misfortune. The dative has been virtually lost in Pali, with the exception of a very few occasions, like the one that Simon quoted, hitaya sukhaya. That is exactly the same as the Sanskrit dative form, but this form of the dative, or rather I should say the dative, survives as an identifiable dative in Pali only in limited circumstances and only for the declension of words ending in a short a. That's why for a few words, hitaya sukhaya, that's the dative there. It often means for the purpose of. And if something is conducive to nibbana, you say nibbanaya samvahati, for example. But here, back to Paladin's question. So let's construe it as a pure genitive, as in of. That would mean the ekahang jivitam Silavantassa Jayino, the one-day life, the life lasting only one day of the virtuous meditator is better. Better than what? Better than everything in the first line, living wrongly for 100 years. So that I tend to think that's my preferred interpret. Off the top of my head, my preferred. The one-day life of the virtuous meditator is better than all the above. It could also be construed, as a dative. Let's just explore that. So a one-day life is better for the virtuous meditator. Now, it doesn't work quite. I mean, it works, but not quite so well. Unless anyone can come up with a better idea, I'm going to treat this as a pure genitive. The one-day life of the virtuous meditator is better.
Yeah,
So
otherwise it runs the risk of saying, just living one day is better, which is not a good price for the serious meditator.
So the living for one day is better. Yeah, I mean, it
doesn't sound like, yeah, the genitive sounds better.
Yeah, and it fits. So, Paladin, does this answer your question to your complete satisfaction?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any little niggling doubts left? Goodness me, I'm glad I didn't cop out on that one. This Silavantassa, alternatively, it could have been, any volunteers, what would be the equally valid grammatical or alternative ending? Simon?
Would it be Silavato?
It would indeed, yeah. For example, we have in the Itipiso chant, Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho. Grammatically, it's not how we chant it, but grammatically, it could equally have been Bhagavantassa Savaka Sangho. So there, in Sanskrit, the short form, the Shilavata, is the only correct one. Pali allows both forms. Oh, is that an addio? Okay. Okay, bye then, Mariano. Bye. So, Silavantassa, Jayino, it's from the same root, of course, where we have jhana. And Sanskrit dhyayati, meditates, Pali jhayati, and the jhayin just means the meditator, literally. Again, so that's the consonantal declension in jhayino of the meditator, rather yogin of the yogi would be yogino. So we'll have a couple of recitations of that, and then Roger, please. I can't hear you, Roger. Your mute button isn't visible, but we couldn't hear you. Oh, no, sorry, no sound. How strange, because your mute button went on and then off again, but still no sound. Alas, okay. Save it up for next time, Roger, hopefully. Right, Keith. Also, before we go on to chant to the recitations, any comments or queries? Right, well, in you come then, Keith. Give us a recitation of it. And preferably with your kind of very distinct lights and heavies, the longs and shorts.
It's quite a challenging one. Yocha vastasatang jive dusilo asamahito ekahang jivitang seyo sila vastasa jayino.
Yeah, that came out pretty distinct, except in the last pada, just the second half of the second line. There was a slight tendency to lengthen that final out. Silavantasajayino. Would you like to try that again with the emphasis? Silavantasajayino.
Sila vantasa jayino.
Okay, yeah, that was so it's working, Keith. Your system is working well.
It's still Morse code.
Exactly so. Right, Fene, would you like to have a go?
Yeah, I'll have a go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yocha wasasatam jiwe dusilo asamahito ekaham jiwitam seyo silawantasa jayino.
Okay, very nice. And I noticed you were pronouncing it in slightly more of a Thai way, which is fine.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's absolutely fine.
It's the same letter, really. Because
it is exactly the same letter. And in fact, in kind of chanting classes in my group, I've even been told off. James, stop! This is Thai Pali, not Sanskrit. We're chanting here. So
in our Sanskrit classes, we were taught because if you have an u and a vowel, it becomes a wa. So it's.
Yeah. So anyway, it did come out. I mean, a Northern Indian would probably pronounce Yocha Vasasatang Jive.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's a matter of style. I mean, I'm not going to start telling the entire Thai Sangha that they're wrong. It would be I wouldn't dare, but no, nor would I want to. The only point I make here is that I'm doing my best to reproduce as far as we can do it the Northern Indian pronunciation at the time of the Buddha. And so, well, how can we do that? Well, the answer is we can have a pretty good idea by listening to the Brahmins chanting Vedic, which you can find all over the internet. So we've got so many respectable examples.
And do they use a V rather than a W?
They will tend to do it like they do in modern Hindi with a V. If it's if it starts a word or is preceded by another vowel, it'll be more of a V sound.
Okay.
But then if it's got a consonant immediately preceding, it'll be like a W, like swara, dwara.
Okay. But in the vasa, it'll be a bilabial vasa.
It would be a bilabial vasa, but the Thais will pronounce it as a pure W sound.
I will practice my bilabial W. I like the idea.
Okay, very good then, Fene. We'll look forward to see how your bilabial W has come out next time. While we're on this subject, Usha, would you like to give us a recitation and pronounce it as if you were speaking your native Punjabi? And we'll be listening to. So, how would you say vasasatang?
Vasasatang.
So, say again.
Vasasatang.
Vasasatang. I think that was a bilabial V.
Yes.
So the lips lightly touching. Vasasatang.
The cross between a W and a V in
between a V and a V. Yeah.
Yes.
Would you pronounce it? When you hear, so for example, a Hindi speaker pronouncing that word, would the V sound be the same in Hindi and Punjabi, for example?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, that according to my ear, that's right.
Unless the Hindus speaking were from a southern place, I don't know, but the northern ones, yes.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And also, as a matter of interest, Shri Nimala, can you just for us say, according to the Sinhala pronunciation, Just say Vassasatang.
Vassasatang.
Say again.
Vassasatang.
I think it sounded pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Was that? Did you pronounce that with the lips
Yoche
like
Vassasatang Jive.
Jive? Yeah, I think it was the same though. I mean, maybe the acoustics aren't perfect through Zoom, but I think that your pronunciation was pretty much the same as Usha's there. So I'm going to plump for our kind of bilabial and exactly the way that Shreya Nimala and Usha have done it, and that Fenny Smith is working on. Okay.
Can I recite?
I'm sorry, say again.
Can I recite the?
Please do. Please do. Carry on.
Yeah, I try my best. Yoche Vassasatang Jive. Dussilo asamahito. Ekaham jivitang seyo. Silavantas sanyahiyo.
Can you say that last word again?
Silavantas jahiyo.
Jayino. Okay, lovely. God. Roger, are you? Oh, has Roger come and gone again? Oh, sorry, there you are, Roger. Alas, no sound is coming through, even though your mute button isn't on. Okay. Rosemary, how about you giving us a recite?
Leave me for another time, James.
Okay, I won't compel anyone. Simon, you're next on the list. Next on my screen.
Yocha Vassasatam Jive Dussilo Asamahito Ekahang Jivitang Seyo Silavantassa Jayino.
Okay, yeah, that came out very nicely. Another point, can you just say again slowly and clearly these words I've heard? Ekahang Jivitang.
Ekahang Jivitang.
Okay. Shri Nimala, can you say in the way that's natural to you, just Ekahang Jivitang?
Ekaham jivitang seyo.
Okay.
Ekaham jivitang seyo.
Right, okay, that's really interesting there. You pronounce that as a nya ekahang jivitam,
Yeah.
which is my preferred pronunciation because that was how it would always be done by Brahmins chanting in Vedic, because you have the anuswara there, the subdotted M,
Yeah.
but you gave it the same tone as the ja, as if it were the same ekahang jivitam. So that the way you pronounce it, there's very likely the closest to the way it was pronounced at the time of the Buddha. Okay, Usha, can we come back to you there? How would you say naturally ekahang jivitang?
Ekahang jivitang.
I'm sorry, I didn't say again.
Ekahang jivitang.
Okay. So from the two students here, whose native languages are direct descendants from Sanskrit and Pali, you both pronounced it and using it as an ekahang jivitam, which is highly likely, I think, how it was pronounced at that time. The Thais do it the way, so when Simon did it with an ekahang jivitam, that is the way that the Thais would do it. And in my chanting practice with the redoubtable Rachel Hall, I've actually been told off for doing it in the Brahmanical Sanskrit, ekahang jivitam. No, ekahang jivitam. So there, I think as a scholarly practice, where you have anuswara before a ja, it takes on the same tone, like an N with a tilde above it. And with a followed by a t, then it becomes like an ordinary dental n. But if we're following the Thai style, it has to be a n. Orca, Does the fact that your face now has appeared on screen indicate you are willing to recite the verse for us? Okay, unmute Orca. Oh, there we are.
I wasn't aware my screen is on.
Okay, if it was accidental, you'll be let off. But I know you always enjoy it once you finish, don't you?
Yeah, it's a long time since I chanted anywhere on your classes. I have a go.
Please
but
do.
The Ekang and Jivatang, long time ago, James, when we were in the class, there was another Chinese came on. She was from Malaysia. She went on and on about the and the for a long time, and that stick in my mind. And fortunately, you approve, and I can never pronounce that as Ekam. I will always pronounce that with the Anuswara, the Ekam.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll have a go.
Please do.
Yo chavasa satam jive dusilo asamahito ekam jivitam sayo silavantasa jayino.
Have you been practicing or taking lessons, Orca? Because that has been, I noticed, a really kind of distinct improvement in confidence. And I mean, generally, you have made excellent progress, Orca. Do not be shy about it. Please do not be shy. You've made excellent progress.
Well, thank you. I listen very attentively to everything. I think I have problem listening to Simon, because in my computer his voice is very soft, and also what is her name? She also have problem. Payden. Always
Peldon.
And her sound also come. I think these two always have a problem on my computer. I don't.
Oh, right. Okay, I mean, I have found that slightly. Some people come through clearer than others. Often it's a question of the acoustics at the end of at the speaker's end.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, don't be shy about it, Orca. That was actually very good indeed.
Oh, thank you so much.
I love seeing my students make progress, and you certainly have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Look, we've come to just after 1 now. So anyone who would like to have a go but hasn't had a go, we'll pick up at this point at the next class. So please put your hand up and say, "My turn now." Okay, so I will see all of you hopefully in a week's time, and some of you hopefully in 40 minutes when we start the Sanskrit class. Okay, thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Bye. Okay, bye then. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.